to understand what is the logic of Israel carpet bombing Gaza. I mean, if there is a logic, if it is a good, if this will make Israel safe, I want to hear the logic. So if they continue bombing, what are they hoping to achieve?
Well, they aren't randomly just carpet bombing the entire city into the ground. These are targeted buildings where Hamas leadership lives. That's what they're doing. It's not Dresden or Berlin in World War II, which in war, those kind of things will happen. But that's not even happening yet. These are targeted attacks against Hamas leadership. So the purpose of that is to remove Hamas leadership and to decimate Hamas. I mean, you could pretend it's just random carpet bombings. They're just leveling the cities, which if they wanted to do, they could have done years ago. For someone who's being accused of genocidal attitudes, they surely don't seem to be acting in a genocidal manner. Someone in this conflict is. Someone in this conflict cannot forgive the small Jewish state from existing, surrounded by Islamic lands, which has a history of not only not getting along with the world, but getting along with each other. So I don't even understand the question. What is the purpose of bombing individual buildings that houses Hamas leadership? To eradicate Hamas leadership.
So if I can understand this correctly, basically Israel is doing this to pressure the Palestinian community in Gaza to turn against Hamas. Is that right?
Well, I'm sure that's part of it. But yeah, I guess it's really to decimate Hamas's leadership. If the Palestinians do not want to decimate Hamas's leadership, then I guess that wouldn't work. If they did, it would work wonders. Even if they didn't, they would be out of leadership. And then it would put the fear into Hamas leadership, as much as they did when they would bomb them going to go get milk. I remember they would be driving around and the Israelis would drone strike them. And basically letting them know, like, no, you're not just going to plan terrorist attacks and then just go about your day and pick up a lottery ticket. That's not going to happen. You're going to have to go find some refuge in Qatar where you could live like a gazillionaire. And again, nobody's defending Hamas. I'm just saying it's what its design and purpose is really is to eradicate Hamas. This is not complicated or difficult. That's what I mean. And if the Palestinians, if it would sway them one way or the other, we assume that the Palestinians, even though they voted for Hamas as a terror organization to take over their little piece of land in Gaza, we would assume that they're under the gun of Hamas and would welcome us destroying Hamas. You would assume that.
That's part of it. So this is exactly what terrorist organizations do, because terrorist organizations will have no chance beating a whole nation in battle. So they terrorize and they kill the civilians in order to spread fear and terror so they can turn against their government to change their policy or to resign. You have just compared Israel with ISIS.
No, I haven't. Breaking the will of a resistance movement by removing terrorist leadership, you're basically admitting that the Palestinian population has a problem with the removal of terrorist leadership. That's what you're doing. You're comparing them to ISIS. You're comparing the Palestinian civilian to ISIS, saying that if you are going to destroy Hamas leadership, you are going to rouse anti-Jewish, anti-Western, pro-Muslim sentiment on the Arab street, which, again, I'm told that the average Palestinian and the average Muslim is against Hamas's actions and Hamas as an organization. That is actually anti-Islam to commit these acts, even in a time of war against non-Muslims. If one were to read the Holy Quran as taught by the Prophet Muhammad, may his name live forever, and the Hadith correctly, you can't do that in a war against non-Muslims. So no, I simply wanting to break the will of the people. If that is really what is being done by removing Hamas leadership, you're saying that the will of the people can be broken by removing Hamas leadership. That's what you're saying. You're comparing the population to ISIS defenders, Hamas defenders, and Al-Qaeda defenders. You're saying that they're in league and in line and that they would be upset about this and this would somehow break them. Good God, we're missing the suicide bombers of the day. Oh Lord, what will we do? Where are our lights and our electricity? Isn't this somebody else's responsibility to turn this on? Listen, we're going to send out people to rape your women and your children and kill them. I know. They weren't 40 beheaded babies. They were just babies who were shot in their cribs. There weren't 40 of them. That story was wrong. But there were other incidences of babies dying, but that doesn't count. Okay.
I would say I really applaud Israel for doing one thing that no military force in the world does. Because I heard Ben Shapiro and I heard Ron DeSantis, and they said Israel is the only military force in the world that warns civilians before bombing them. I mean, how fucking cute. That is so nice of them. Because with this logic, if Russian troops started warning Ukrainians before bombing their houses, we're cool with Putin, right? I mean, okay, Habibi, you have warned them, go invade, it's fine, you have done your job.
While all conflicts share similarities, all conflicts are not the same. If the Ukrainians had invaded Moscow and taken hostages, shot men of the family, and then raped the women in front of the family, or shot children in front of the family, keeping the other hostages alive, taken hostages back to Ukraine, if the reality on the ground was that if the Ukrainians had laid down their arms, there would be peace, but if the Russians laid down their arms, there would be no more Russians, then there would be something similar to that effect. It's a very nuanced, strange way that we've been fighting wars ever since Vietnam, where, as a UN general once said when he was in Gaza, watching the Israelis operate, that he'd never seen anybody care more about civilian life than the Israelis. And I know you could be argued and you could bring up cases of like, oh, they're purposely targeting civilians. It's just not, the truth is it's not in the MO of targeting civilians in the same way that it's not the United States' MO to target civilians. Yes, there have been cases where weddings have been bombed with drone attacks. There have been cases of collateral damage, or even where drone attacks and other attacks have accidentally killed civilians. But again, mistakes and collateral damage is not the purposeful targeting of civilians. It's a different conflict. And no, we wouldn't be cool with Putin, but we would take a minute to realize what is actually happening in the conflict. One side is a hapless murderer, and the other one is saying something to the effect of, no, listen, you're not going to be able to operate your terrorist activities from this building anymore. You are not going to fire rockets from the height of this building strategically anymore. We will call you stupidly and tell you, leave the building. This building is going. All that we're attacking is the building. We should attack people. We've gone one step further and called you and said, listen, we're targeting the individual. And then you decide, because you want the civilian casualties in audio, that of course was created and is all fake, say, no, we're leaving the civilians in there. Begging, for God's sake, get the children out of there. And then you say no. That's when that would be similar. All conflict, while sharing certain similarities, are not the same. People talk about proportionality of how much Israel is supposed to be attacked. I remember when I was a kid, this young hoodlum threw something at me and my brother. And I walked up to him and I shoved him into a fucking tree. And he gets up and he's crying and he goes, you didn't have to hit me that hard. That's not how it works. Once you've admitted violence into a situation, it is not up to you to tell the victim, and I know you don't like that word, to tell the person that you've aggressed against how much they're going to hit you back. If Al-Qaeda attacked an empty building in the United States, you would still rain hell upon them. You do not attack fucking American cities. It's just not what happens. And you are warned not to do so by dying. That's how you pay for that. So no, they're not these. You want to compare all conflicts, and it's not real. It's not truth, and it's not based in historical accuracy, and it doesn't make any sense. The purpose of these phone calls is to allow buildings to be destroyed with the minimum of civilian casualties. Now, you could claim that the aggressor who are dropping the bombs have no right to be in the conflict in the first place, and you'd be wrong. But that's how you want to paint this picture, that the monstrous Israelis who have no right to the land and no right to breathe and no right to be there and maybe should have even been, okay, we won't say that they should have been assaulted and invaded and taken hostage of, but that these people who are wrong in the conflict are now to be seen as angels because they're making these phone calls to destroy buildings. But that's not the case. It's simply not the case. And not all conflicts are the same. And you cannot draw one example from another. Now, every round fired doesn't mean that you can draw conclusions from different conflicts. Well, they shot rounds in Angola, and they also shot rounds in World War II. Similarities to conflicts can be made in certain circumstances, in the right context. This isn't one of them. Sorry.
Israeli defense minister, he said, those are human animals. And the thing is, Ben Shapiro should know better because, long before the Holocaust, before Jewish people were thrown in the gas chambers, the Nazi propaganda called them rats. Now, as a human being, I will never accept that another human being being thrown into a gas chamber, but a rat, kill 10, kill 1,000, 3,500. They are son of a bitch. They are human animals who live in open sewage and decapitate babies.
I don't know how to say this more unequivocally, but yes, Hamas are a bunch of rats and rodents who need to be eviscerated off the face of the fucking earth. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, if you want to claim that this is a reference to all Muslims, you can, but we're talking about Hamas. And they are indeed rats and rodents who do live in open sewage and who should be killed slowly. Unfortunately, we don't have the patience or the time or the heart for that kind of thing, so we'll just bomb them. Excuse us.
And because of that propaganda, Mr. Morgan, that guy in Illinois, the 71 years old guy, he killed, stabbing the 6-year-old Palestinian kid in Illinois 26 times. And he used to play with him. They used to be friends. But he went in, marching into their apartment, stabbing his mother and killing him, shouting, all Muslims could die.
Yeah.
It took you 80 years to change one word from Jewish to Muslim. And then you transferred your guilt to us.
I don't even fucking know what that's supposed to fucking mean. We're supposed to be responsible for some fucking lunatic. We're responsible for mass shooters and propaganda. We're supposed to ignore the fucking children's books that these fucking people are giving their children, sponsored by UNWAR, which basically, you want to talk about dogs and rats, how they treat Jews, not Hamas members, Jews, how they teach their children to treat Jews. Get the fuck out of here. We're going to listen to this guy talk about the propagandizing of people and what ill effect that might lead to violence? Are we having a serious conversation? This can't be real. There's literal Disney versions of like a Big Bird that runs around on television in Palestine screaming about killing the Jews. Oh, when I grow up, we should all kill the Jews. Oh, one day I'm going to live in... Desperately dreaming of a fantasy of moving back into Tel Aviv so he can live upon some fucking crap hole that they've left over. For the love of God. Jesus Christ. We can't be serious. Propaganda. Bad propaganda is causing violence. I mean, really. Transferred your guilt. What the fuck are you talking about? Transferred Jesus.
The thing is, this is the problem. Israel always victimizes itself, and I have never seen a victim putting their oppressor under siege and bombing them 24/7.
Yeah, we're gonna live in a make-believe world where just the bombings just happen just out of nowhere. They 24/7 they are bombing. I've never seen somebody who's a victim who's bombing. He just I was sitting eating from my olive tree, and the bombs they happen just out of nowhere. I don't know what happened.
How come you can't fucking ask questions? I just don't understand. Like if I get bit by a rattlesnake, wouldn't you guys have some questions? Right? How did it happen? Did you not see it? Were you fucking with it?
Israel wants you to believe that they are the victim. Dealing with Israel is so difficult. It's like being in a relationship with a narcissistic psychopath. He fucks you up, and then he makes you think it's your fault.
All right,
you
Bassem.
look at Israel as Superman, but they're really Homelander.
Bassem.
Wallahi, they are like they are shooting
Bassem, I wanna
fish
say
in a
one
barrel,
thing.
and they are annoyed with the splashes.
I mean, the absolute irony of this individual painting this picture that sounds very cute. That, oh, they are annoyed with these splashes. I'm sure it sounds very cute. And yes, it is like being in a relationship with a narcissistic psychopath who's blaming you for all their problems. That community suffers a lot from a different community in the United States who has a violence problem. They have a violence problem, and they refuse to take any responsibility for it. And so blinded are they, and so are they incensed with not only not wanting to forget about fixing the problem, they won't even admit they have a problem. If you try to bring it up, they'll say it's due to racism or slavery. There is a community like that within the United States. It faces it's sad, a tremendous violence problem where young men are killing each other over music lyrics or nothing, over corners, over stupidity. And if you try to bring it up, if you try to solve the problem, you run into this block where they won't even identify the problem. There's another community just like that. It creates nothing, it does nothing, and I know you're not supposed to use broad brushes on communities, but when you're talking about statistics and communities and groups, you have to be able to talk about groups. And this group insists that all of its issues and problems are the problems of the white colonizers who they view as the issue. And the truth is the same for both communities. Your problems are not the fault of anyone else. You've been living on your own with a Hamas leadership that you elected and living in destitute nothingness in open refugee camps, blaming everybody else. Oh, but they're blocking this. They're blocking electricity. They put up a wall. They don't want to just let us in without vetting us. Because, walls don't work. This fucking small group of Islamists, when we want to talk about communities and statistics, when polled, most of those people are either anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish, anti-Western, and while they may not personally be committing acts of violence, and I'm not saying that they deserve bombs, but this is the reason why Egypt doesn't want them. It's the reason why Jordan doesn't want them. It's the reason why no Arab state wants them. What they don't want is a Palestinian. They want another Arab state. There isn't enough Arab states. These leftover Jordanians insist that their problems are the world's problems. It's everybody else's fault that there's just nothing coming out of there but pestilence, AIDS, disease, and violence. It's everybody else's problem. It's just not the case. The Western colonizers are not the reason why you're strapping bombs onto yourself or raping people. As a general rule, I tend to have less faith in the people that are raping other people than I do of anyone else. You can hate Raytheon and the military-industrial complex and the Israelis not recognizing Palestinians as citizens, but the truth is, you can be an Arab in Israel. As a matter of fact, some of them serve in the Israeli military as patriots because they know that they can be themselves in these countries. They can be free. There are Arab members in the Israeli Knesset. There are no Jews in Palestine. There are no Jews in Yemen. There are no Jews in Iraq. There are no Jews in Iran. There used to be large Sephardic communities in these areas. They don't exist. And again, to reiterate, the truth is, if Hamas laid down its weapons tomorrow, and I know we're talking Palestinians, not Hamas, but if Hamas laid down its weapons tomorrow, there would be peace. If Israel laid down its weapons tomorrow, there would be no Israel. There would be no Jews there. They dream endlessly of this fantasy of moving into Tel Aviv and ruling over it, which will look just like Gaza it is today. If Hamas ever wins, there won't be peace in the Middle East. They will come after the West next. And I know, it's nonsense to believe that, we're attacking them there so that they can't come over here. That's supposed to be a misnomer. But if you listen to them, if you listen to what they say in their interviews, that's exactly what they have in mind. And I tend to believe that. We're supposed to be doing this great separation between the Palestinians and Hamas. There's no outcry against the Egyptian government for not taking these people in. There's no outcry against Hamas. There's this constant focus on how the Israelis are choosing to battle this war with an enemy that does not value life. They, as they say themselves, they value death more than Westerners value life. They talk about proportionality. I guess the Israelis should go in there and rape some women. I guess that's what we're talking about. Taking out buildings now. Now that's a problem. Taking out buildings, calling you and telling you to get out. Now there's some allusion to Putinista that he would be a good guy if he did this, if he took out buildings instead of killing people. I don't know. Maybe it would make him a better person. It's like, listen, I'm not going to kill you. I'm taking out this building. You're not going to use this as an artillery piece where you can fire off rockets from the roof anymore. I don't know what the fuck world do you live in where you bleed and scream about the plight of the Palestinian people more than you would for the Israelis trying to defend themselves. Yes, all life is precious. Correct. And again, there's a difference between collateral damage and wanton murder. How do you end up on the wrong side of this is beyond me. After the history of Islam, why are they going through my trash for the bottles? And will they please, you can go through the trash. Just close the bag after you're done. I swear to fucking Christ, if you do not close that bag after you're done, I'm going to leave this place and fucking come out there and drag you back there and make you fucking close that bag. Mother of fucking God. Well, at least they don't play loud music and rob me.